Welcome everybody here to the Martin Segal Theater Center at the Graduate Center CUNY. My name is Frank Hentschker and I'm the director of the center. Many of you have been here many times, others are new. We do bridge academia and professional theater, international and American theater, and we often celebrate the life and work of great masters, of what we think great masters of theater. In chess, they would be grandmasters who played famous games that people still look up 100 years later, and we have done that for Harold Pinter, for Pina Bausch, René Polish, many others. And to this evening, as the season opener, we are here to celebrate the life and work of one of the great masters of theater, of playwriting, as we think, and this is Edward Bond. He is perhaps not as much known here in the US as he should be, but he has his plays, if you think of it, in the real sense of stars at a firmament of heaven, of theater, where there are many, and they're very different. Hans Thies Lehmann, the great thinker, said theater is like a house, and there's many rooms, but in one of those rooms, or one of the stars, this is Edward Bond's room, what he thinks about theater, what he made about theater, why he felt it was meaningful and important. So tonight, we celebrate him. He died a year ago, almost the same day of today. And if we are not mistaken, what you guys will hear tonight is the very first reading of his last play, The Shoe Thief. This no one has heard yet before on planet Earth, if it's right. And we would like to thank our friends, David Gotthard from London, the legendary leader of the old Riverside Studios, who anybody who knew what they was knows what a great place that was. And he connected us to Tony Colt and others who are working together to create the legacy for Bond, and that his work, still will be relevant, accessible, and they're creating an archive and an orchard, perhaps, and something where you all perhaps can participate. You can take some chairs over here and take it out. So we have with us the, I want to say it right, the great Art Borreca, who is the leader of the also very important Iowa Playwrights Center program. If you look at the work of that program, it's rivaled only, I think, by the Royal Court in London and their great program, and a very fantastic work. And you knew him, you have taught his work, and so we asked Art to fly in. He came here to join us tonight to talk about this great thinker of theater. We also would like to welcome our viewers on HowlRound. All our evenings are free and open to the public, actually around the world, most probably 15, 20 countries. People will watch this, and it also stays online, so it's a contribution towards a live archive, a moving archive, and we think conversations, readings, panels are also part of what we consider academic work, a research work. We are a research center here. The structure of the evening will be that Art will give us a talk, 10 minutes, something about why is Edward Bond's work important? Why should we think about it? What did he do in his life? How did he think about theater? We will have the great Irondale Theater with us, and there's Jim Nielsen, one of the leaders here. They will give a reading. How long will it be? What do you think?
I would say a little over an hour.
Yeah, this is The Shoe Thief. And then we will sit down together and talk a little bit about it. We have so 2 small tribute videos, 2 or 3 minutes, which we will show. So, but now I would like to ask you, take out your cell phone and should be on silent and off. And again, hello to all our HowlRound viewers, and thank you to HowlRound for streaming us, for Thea and VJ to be such great partners. It's the season opener for us, and we are very happy to be back. Art, maybe say a little bit about who you are, what you are. Not everybody knows about the IO workshop, and then tell us about Edward Bond.
Okay, let me make sure this is in a good spot. So Frank said I could have, in our email correspondence, he said I could have 5 to 7 minutes, but that's apparently been expanded to 10. And not realizing I was going first, I've been sitting here fantasizing the whole lecture I could have given on Bond's work. So my name is Art Borreca. I'm an associate professor of dramaturgy, dramatic literature at the University of Iowa, where I have also been head or co-head for many years of the Iowa Playwrights Workshop. We have many writing programs at Iowa, and there's often some confusion. The Iowa Writers Workshop, which is perhaps the best known of the programs historically, is the poetry fiction writing program. And our program is a kind of cousin program in the theater arts department, the Playwrights Workshop, and we share resources and students, and people do double degrees and that sort of thing. But one of the things I'm working on is getting the people who graduate from the program, who have success, to not let the people who write the articles say that they're graduates of the Iowa Writers Workshop. They are graduates of the Iowa Playwrights Workshop, giving theater its due. So I have been at Iowa for 35 years, a fact that is daunting for me to say, but it means I do have a long history with a lot of interesting writers who have come through the program. And when the opportunity to speak to Edward Bond's legacy came up, it came up through David Gotthard, who has been a guest artist in our program many, many times, and who has helped facilitate the early professional careers of a lot of our writers. He and I have been in a regular sort of correspondence about British theater generally over the years, and it was really his idea that I might be able to address the legacy of Edward Bond specifically through his influence on the Iowa Playwrights Workshop. I did not know Edward Bond personally very well, but I feel like his presence has been felt in our program in a number of different ways. One is through my own research, which was my doctoral research was on British historical plays starting in the late 50s, and Bond is a key figure in that. Another is in teaching certain plays of Edward Bond's and the influence that has had, especially on writers interested in the history play genre. And then the third and probably the most exciting component, which I'll save to the end, is that some of our writers have carried on correspondence with Edward Bond and have shared that correspondence with me, which was very generous of them. And I also reached out to a number of our alumni for comments on whether they regarded Bond as an influence and in what ways. So I got more of a sense. I knew about specific writers who had engaged with his work, but I got more of a sense of the widespread influence. So it is a great honor to be here, not having had that kind of direct personal connection with Edward Bond as much as those you'll be hearing in the videos. But as someone who feels this legacy of Edward Bond through the work of our program. Maybe by way of something that I might have included in a more detailed lecture, if you're not familiar with Edward Bond's work, one of the things that is foremost to know about his position in British theater history in the UK, is that he wrote several plays in the 60s that were very controversial, and one of them, titled Saved, was done by the Royal Court, and it included a terrible scene of young men stoning a baby to death in a baby carriage. And it was that was a time when the Lord Chamberlain had to give licenses to plays to be performed, and the Lord Chamberlain said this absolutely cannot be produced. So the Royal Court Theatre converted itself every evening into a private theater club, having people pay an extra pound to go in and see this play. But they still were being constantly threatened of being shut down, and this eventually led to repeal of the censorship laws in Britain. And there were other plays that were important to that as well, but Bond's Saved in particular, as well as Early Morning, which was a sort of fantasia about Queen Victoria. And she's in the play, she's having an affair with Florence Nightingale. And, and Arthur and Albert, the sons, are conjoined twins, and it's like set in heaven, and it's a really wild play. And of course, the Lord Chamberlain didn't like that one either. So he was an instrumental figure in changing that law. That really opened up the ability of writers critical of British society, writers who were politically minded, really opened up their ability to write more freely and not have to kind of dodge these regulations. So I wanted to talk a little bit about one of my favorite of Bond's plays, which is a play that I've taught a lot in a course on the history play, which is a creative course. We read plays in the history play genre, but the purpose of it is for playwrights mainly in the graduate playwriting program to write their own plays based on history. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this one particular play, which has been influential in that course and the impact it's had on students. And then I want to turn to a little bit of the correspondence that I mentioned. What you're seeing on the screen is John Gielgud, who incidentally testified on behalf of Edward Bond in the royal court and in favor of repealing the censorship laws. The great classical Shakespearean actor cast in the role of Shakespeare at the Royal Court Theatre in Bond's play Bingo, Scenes of Money and Death, which was a very controversial play because it challenged the assumptions that we tend to have about Shakespeare being a great humanist, sort of morally irreproachable, somebody whose work demonstrates that he must have been a great man who never did anything wrong. And so what Bond does in the play is it's Shakespeare in retirement in Stratford. And in the very first scene, he signs an agreement with a local landowner to enclose common lands, lands that he owns, that he takes rents from, but that he agrees to enclose them, which means removing the people who are working those lands off of those lands. And this was part of a whole process that started in, this would have been 17th century. It went on and on through the 18th into the 19th century, where the land's private ownership was on the rise, and it had a really direct impact on people. So he agrees to enclose the lands, and he shows throughout the play a great indifference to the impact. We begin to see the impact of that. There is a vagrant character who wanders through a lot, who he's totally indifferent to. He shows indifference to his wife, there's only one daughter in the play, although Shakespeare had more than one daughter. In the end of the play, he repeats the line, "Was anything done? Was anything done?" And he takes poison and commits suicide. You can imagine some people were upset by this portrayal of Shakespeare. As a history play, it's I think, dramaturgically brilliant because it upends the conventions of the traditional costume drama, where we're used to seeing the biography of a figure represented through a mix of public and private scenes, and it's like we're going behind the scenes to see what their life was really like. He takes that form, but he uses it in a very, very different way. And he also uses, interestingly, a lot of silence early in the play so that Shakespeare doesn't say very much, and it leaves room for us to kind of project onto him our assumptions about who he is. But then over the course of the play, he gives a number of kind of self-interrogative monologues reflecting on his life and on was anything done. Students tend, my playwriting students have tended to either love this play or hate this play. And I think this is appropriate to the legacy of Edward Bond, because that's exactly the reaction that he probably had with Saved in the 1960s and others of his plays. People responded to them as great examples of political social critique, or they felt, you can't put this on stage. The theater shouldn't be showing this. Bond is not interested in the kind of history play that suggests oh, I'm using established, he does use established facts, yes, but he's not interested in asserting that there's a lot of established fact in the play so that he can say, you know, yes, I took these established facts and I adapted them to my purpose. He has a much more kind of fluid sense of history. There's a sense of attitudes to the past are active, and the past always has to be looked at from the perspective of the present. And Bond was particularly interested in the dilatory effects of capitalism, and he portrays the capitalist society at Shakespeare's time and shows how Shakespeare's life might have been ingrained in that society, that he could not have transcended it. And in fact, there is evidence of Shakespeare having signed this document that I mentioned, and Bond sort of concludes that if he signed such a document and was unaware of the social impact of it, then in Bond's view, suicide might have been the right thing. So as a teaching tool and teaching the history play, as I said, students either love it or hate it. When they love it, it frees them up in a particular way. Oh, I can take this biographical figure, I can take this piece of history, and I can work freely with that. I need to be mindful of what I'm saying about the past, about history, but there's a kind of freedom to what I can do. But those who don't like it very much also are freed up in a particular way because it clarifies for them, I don't want to do this, but I want to do this instead. And that's very interesting to see that process work. I included these slides. There's 2 slides of John Gielgud as Shakespeare, just because I think there's just such a wonderful image in terms of the sort of intersection of Gielgud, who was known for his Hamlet and for his performance of so many of Shakespeare's roles in a very particular classical mode of Shakespearean acting in the 20th century, being cast in the role of Shakespeare, this controversial, provocative play about Shakespeare. So that's something I think very positive about John Gielgud, but also it's just kind of a great image in terms of a moment in recent British theater history. If you wanted to show the other slide, that's pretty much, that's Shakespeare closer to the end of the play. So that's one aspect of, have I used my 10 minutes? That's one aspect, is the teaching of this play. It's not the only play of Bond's that I teach, but it's one that's really, it's just a play that I think is really, really important to post-war British theater generally, and the history play genre in particular. If you're interested in pursuing any of this, I would recommend finding Bingo to read. I would also recommend reading Bond's Lear, which is his free adaptation of King Lear. It's a kind of companion piece. The other aspect is this really specific influence that Bond has had on certain writers in our program. And at the risk of embarrassing him, because he's sitting right here, Charles Green, who is one of our recent graduates, currently pursuing a PhD at Columbia, sent in a statement about Bond that I found representative of what I was hearing from a lot of the writers, the alumni of the program. The term ethical and moral kept coming up again and again. Bond is a moral writer. Bond is an ethical writer. Charles wrote, for Bond, even say the mud in Lear has an ethics to it, because it has a history, and all history is political. Even the span of an hour of rain that disrupts the furrowed fields that bear the shape of a peasant's hand and on, is a dialectical materialist event. Yeah. So this idea that Bond is an ethical writer, a moral writer that holds all writers up to a certain standard in terms of what they should be doing. Another quotation I have is from David Adjemi, who won the Tony Award last year for his play Symphonic. He's an alumni of our program from around 2000. He wrote, "My Bond influence is filtered through Sarah Kane." And if you don't know Sarah Kane is a writer who wrote similarly controversial political plays that depicted often scenes of upsetting scenes of violence, but with a very specific purpose, who I think had a profound effect on writers of my generation. Her unflinching look at human brutality was mixed together with desire and a kind of heightened aesthetic expressivity. Both Kane and Bond strike me as moral writers, not provocateurs. That said, though these writers often repel their audiences, I feel them reaching toward the audience with an unspoken plea. I don't think Bond took pleasure in the famous baby stoning scene in Saved. Underneath the numbness and inhumanity dramatized in that scene, I think he is sobbing with grief for the world. So that's David Adjemi. Now, a fuller statement on Bond's work came from Naomi Wallace, graduate of our program from the mid-1990s, who has become an important political playwright in her own right. And she started a correspondence with him when she was a student and carried it on through his passing. And she offered to share with me some of the email around The Shoe Thief. He sent her a copy of the play, and she wrote, "Dear Edward, my head is still spinning after reading this morning your ingenious The Shoe Thief. It got under my skin, has been haunting me for hours. The fragmented storytelling, the images got under my skin, as only good writing can. How the experience told is both liquid and severed at the same time. How do you do that? I was thinking, where are all the missing words Leonard doesn't say?" That statement will make more sense, I think, after you hear the play. "Perhaps we will use these to build our freedom." And then Edward Bond responded, "Dear Naomi, thanks for your generous reaction to The Shoe Thief. I should explain. The structure is a dramatization of structure. It's the difference between theater and drama. Theater is about an anecdote, and it's staged by connecting the elements of the anecdote as if that gave it meaning. Its meaning is only superficial. The mistake is cleared up, the money is paid, the apology reconciles the contestants. That's really how we live contemporary life, but its meaning remains on the surface. So theater is gift wrapping without anything inside the gift wrapping. In Shoe, I make the structure into the play. This shows more of the reality of our situation, the causes of what happens, and then consciousness has to react to that. Theater assumes consciousness knows the causes, but it knows only the effects that bind the incident together. It's as if you didn't eat the meal but only read the recipe. Creative human periods depend on drama because the question is then, why? We are in a manufacturing culture, not a creative, moral one. And then the last thing I wanted to do, I can't tie this in directly to my theme of the legacy of Edward Bond as seen through the experience of the Iowa Playwrights Workshop, but one of my colleagues, Lisa Schlesinger, who currently co-runs the program with me, also carried out a correspondence with Edward Bond. And she shared with me a poem that he shared with her that he wrote after his wife Elizabeth was diagnosed with cancer, and it was clear that that it was a very bad case of cancer. And I was thinking, it's not specifically about the legacy, but as we are commemorating his loss, it's a beautiful piece about loss, so I just wanted to read this. It's called Stay. To spend the night with you, to spend the day, to spend a moment, to spend a year. If I held the whole world in my arms, my 30 finger joints are empty bones clutching at space and empty husks of time. If you are not there, there is no living resting place to lay my head and hear another's breath, and nothing mine. Stay here, stay now, stay always, do not go away. Oh. I think maybe we can tie that back to Bond's legacy and say that this event is helping to contribute to our not letting Bond go away. Thank you.
So now we're going to move over directly to the reading, and a big welcome, I think, to the Irondale Ensemble. So thank you. And certainly the American, or the America's premiere of The Shoe Thief, and we did not know whether it's been done yet. And has it been done in London as a reading or a play? Yeah, so this is the first one. So thank you all, and again, thanks to Tony and to David to connect us. So thank you.
Maybe I'll say this much. It was meant to be a trilogy of plays. The first one's called D, which is inspired by D.
1 second, I'll give you a mic.
Oh, sorry.
Because it's recorded.
Sorry, I won't go on too long with this,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah, we want to hear you too, so we know what we're doing.
excellent. He wrote a play titled DEA, which was inspired by Medea, and that was produced. He directed it in London, and then this was the second play, and it has some of the characters from D. And he intended a third play that was called, I believe, Rust Coat, which he never did finish. So that's just the content.
One, flat with living and eating room, a wooden table, wooden chairs, a door center left in the back wall, a radio not turned on, silence. Leonard comes in. He is slim. A mop of black hair falls over his forehead. He wears a long, dark, buttoned-up coat of heavy gray or black material with the appearance of vulcanized cloth. He is tired and grubby. His shoeless feet are wrapped in thick, white, but dirty cloth waddings, partly undone, trailing on the floor. Half raising his head, a quick look at the room. He looks down at the floor. He is still. Pause. After some moments, he goes to a chair at the table, picks it up, puts it down in the room, goes to another chair at the table, sits. He rests the sides, not palms, of his hand on the table. Silence. The door opens. Grace comes in. She sees Leonard and stops. She is about his age, slim, casual clothes, overall trousers and top. She comes to the table, stands, stares at Leonard. She moves a chair to make a noise. Leonard doesn't react to the sound. His head sinks.
Didn't hear you come in.
No response.
I didn't change the locks.
Pause.
Are you all right? Where have you been?
No answers.
Are you staying? Shall I get you some food?
He looks at her blankly.
I I cooked it myself, for myself. But you can have it. Or share it.
No answer.
Where have you been?
Streets.
Where?
Leonard makes a vague, empty gesture.
Are you all right?
He half nods without glancing at her.
You're tired. You should sleep. You can tell me later. In the morning. Do you want to eat?
Leonard continues the previous conversation.
Streets.
Slight silence.
It doesn't help if I ask questions, does it? Whatever you want to tell me, I'll just listen. Don't say anything now. In the morning. Decide then.
No response.
I'll make up a bed for you in here.
I sleep in doorways. Shops. Alleys.
Silence.
I didn't try to make inquiries. Didn't know where. Couldn't go to the police. In case there was something.
Out of the way. Dust bins. Behind. No wind.
Silence. His voice is quiet and monotonous.
Have you come back? I won't ask. You tell me in your own time.
Leonard, mostly to himself.
Walked the streets. Busy parts. Begged first off.
Stares in front of himself as if remembering.
They didn't like that. Chased me off. Spat! I made a little boat. Newspaper. Kids do. Put it on the pavement. People drop coins in. Man sets his dog on me. Brute ran off. Boat in its mouth. Saliva. Coins scatter. Gutter. People chase them. Fight for the few that pick them up. Go off panting. Their pockets padding. Gave up. Learned. No more boats. Lived from plastic bins in the dark. Metal lids make noise. Great. Alert the house. Rats busy in the dustbins. Leave them alone. Rats don't like trouble. Don't know. You can live from dustbins. Kept to the street. Busy. Crowds. People don't see you. Don't see you if you don't beg. Streets all the same. I worried. Attract attention. Become a spectacle. Curiosity dangerous. City behind me could have gone weeks ago. I wouldn't know. Every sound. Just a noise. No purpose.
Tell me in the morning, when you've slept. I'll get the food.
Goes to door. Hesitates.
Don't go while I'm...
She goes out. Leonard doesn't notice she's gone. Sometimes he talks as if to the empty chair he moved into the room, but it is inconsistent. Most of the time, he talks with himself. Sometimes sits at the table, sometimes walks.
I wasn't looking for... Gave that up. Kept going. Stomping. Digging a hole perhaps. Not climbing out of it. Went on. The streets? Gray. Couldn't turn back. Where to? I was lost. When it was dark, night curfew. Crowds come out, fireworks, shooting, gangs fighting for their patch, police guarding their beat, pubs burning. Go on. Find out why you're walking. Where? Forgot what it's for. Something in this gray, what is it? Night follows me in today. Catches up. Find a doorway. Every night. In the dark. Strange houses. Lights on in the window upstairs.
He becomes agitated.
Parties in the square. Heard it in my sleep in the morning. Went on. Walked through crowds. Horse dragged a cart. Head bent down towards the road. Dog savaged it. Man set it on. Get it, Jamie. Dog hung on horse's leg. Horse reared. Dog dangling like a living rag. They go round the corner, out of sight. Horse screamed. Don't look back. Attract attention. Curiosity dangerous. Went on. Next day. Next day. One day. Someone beside me. I knew. Walking with my same steps. Didn't look. Make out he's not there. Don't attract the... Turned off side street. He's still there. Same steps. Went slower. He went slower. Try faster. Not too fast. Attract the... And he's not there. Gone. Empty at my... Oh God, is he ahead of me? Waiting for me on... And he's not there. Look down at the street. Nothing, only a crowd. Churning. I crept on. Heard the pavement creak. Next day, he was back. There. Day after day.
He becomes quiet, factual.
Never look. Saw his shadow moving like the wind in the dirt. There's a dark hole, night in the night. An alley. Went in. Noise outside, quiet. Inside, quiet. Inside, silent. Touched the wall to know where I was going. Dustbins, eat. Reached out to the lid moved. Lifted. Metal. Streaked with rust. Him. In the alley. I said, why do we live like this? I mean no harm. If this is what... So let it be. So be it. He ducked down the alley. I followed his rat breath. He was gone. Not there. Rats frightened behind me, the dustbin, they'd seen him. Had I shamed him when I asked him, was I free? Lay down against the wall, pulled my collar over my sleep, took me. Didn't dream. No answer. Not yet. Too soon. And I opened. The end of the alley. Light. Day. I was waking up. He wasn't there. I walked towards a child's cart, a wooden crate, metal wheels, handle to pull the entrance. I went out on the street. He was there on the other side of it. I didn't look. Don't let him know that you've seen him. He went on, pulled the cart, wheels rattled. He was at my side, heard his steps. If I ran, people would stop. Two men running with a cart, their dogs would... Went on. Had I stolen his cart? Was it... It was stood, abandoned, in the mouth of the... Dropped the handle, left it on the street, went on, listened for the squeaking nothing.
He leaves the table, wanders.
All day. Went on. Another part of different shops, big stores, money, deserted. Late hour, no shoppers, gone off. No alleys. The past passage between windows, huge glass walls of dummies in poses, dressed up. Went in the passage, on and on, round the glass corners. The map of air.
He sits on the floor, starts to undo the wrappings on his feet. Quiet.
I came to an end. Passage locked. Shut. Padlock chains. No dustbins, no rats. Alone. Was this an answer? Here. Now. Could it? I lay down. Would I find it in my sleep? Don't dream. Sleep came to me. Then. In the night, I felt rats fiddling with my, but there are no rats here. My feet are sore. I walk so far. So rats fiddling with, open my eyes. Top of a head, parting, like in the, he was hands pulling the laces. I watched, I thought I was exhausted, so he crouched, unknotting the two hands, pulling the laces. Watched, pretended. Dirt under the nails. I acted, slept. He yanked off my, stealing my one in each hand. He went his back, lurching down the passage to the...
Tears off the wrapped rags violently.
Jumped up! Ran after the dummies in the window, the glass twist as I ran by out on the street, running. My bare feet couldn't go as fast as, but if he took my shoes, I died.
He becomes quiet and factual.
In this city, not a crust, or walk, or beg.
The rags lie on the ground. He moves them with his hand. They slowly ebb like water.
He was running. I ran after him. If I could catch his shadow, I could yank him back and get my shoes from his, my bare feet torn on the, out of the center of the, ran in the streets, the houses where people lived, yelled, my shoes! Caught him by the, ran in the streets. He turned to, thrashed my face with his shoes, with my shoes. Trod them on my, he turned, he put them in his mouth and ripped out the tongue, spat the leather at my, people came from the houses. Lights on in the windows. My shoes. Stole his shoes! Shoe thief! Stole his shoes! Shoe thief! In our streets! Stop him! Catch! He squealed and screamed. They drag him to the river where the people that break the law and suicides shouting, shoe thief! Shoe thief! Standing on garden walls. The hearse is parked on the police hearse for the curfews. Shoe thief! They rock the hearse. Mob rip open doors. Coffin inside. The yank off the lid. Corpse in the coffin. Shoe thief, killer, stalker, rip the sheet off the dead. Throw it in the, ram the shoe thief in the coffin. Ram the shoe thief! Shoe thief! In the coffin with the dead. Hammer the lid. Shoe thief. Good entertainment. Coffin bounces on shoulders. Bridge. drop it in the river. Ah. Bubbles rising from the coffin, floating on the river. Crowd yell, "Shoe thief, still alive?" The trembling bridge. And I walk back to sit on the curb. Sheet from the coffin. Wrap my feet.
Grace has come in. She carries a tray with 2 plates of food. She stands with her back to the door, watches Leonard.
We must understand. You'll never be yourself if we don't.
Leonard doesn't react.
I watched you get worse. I should have stopped it. I thought as you'd have your own ways.
She goes to the table with the tray, puts it on the table.
I've kept my job. You don't have to worry about bills. I could move out for a while you settle in, if that's what you want. You need to be alone for a while. Do it here, not on the street. That's cruel.
Leonard fiddles with rags.
What do you remember?
No response.
I need to know. I have to know what I can do with the rest of my life.
No response.
Would you like the food over there?
Questions, questions.
We lived in the mountains. You built a house. Remember?
Leonard stands, goes to the chair in the room, holds it by the back, starts quietly to drag it behind him round the room, head half bowed.
We were happy. If things had gone right, we'd still be there. Then you brought your mother. You didn't tell me. She was just at the doorstep. Hello? She kissed me. I thought you built the house to go get away from her.
Leonard quietly wanders, dragging the chair behind him as if it were a cart, head half bowed.
But you were good to her. We made her happy.
Silence. Grace goes to the rags, starts to pick them up.
Leave them!
Leonard goes to Grace, dragging the chair cart, leaves it halfway, pulls the rags from her hands, throws them down on the floor.
I know when it started. I don't know why. How one small thing can change everything. All of it. If I understood that, I'd know if there was any future for us.
Leonard goes to the table, standing, starts to pick with a fork at the food.
It was a good day. The sun, view. You had the idea. You said, let's eat outside. I cooked. You laid the table. Your mother sat at the end. We chatted. I forget about what. Do you remember?
Leonard takes a fork full of food.
Your mother was laughing. I've never seen her so happy. She finally belonged there. Something good was beginning. I went into the house for water or salt. I was humming and dancing with myself inside I came out. It was silent. No one speaking. Eating. You were like wax figures. I said, what's the matter?
Still standing, Leonard goes on eating.
She didn't look at me. I went to my place at the table. You got up, picked up her plate, threw it over the cliff. She didn't move. You threw that hadn't changed. The rest of everything had changed.
It didn't happen. None of it. If it happened, I'd know. How could I
He
have...
splutters food on the table, tries to gather it up with his hands, flings it back on the plate.
It didn't happen. Didn't. I'd remember if...
Food splutters and spurts from his mouth. He scrapes at the food spilt on the table, on the floor.
You went to your mother. I thought you meant to throw her over the... I got up, stood between you. You walked round the table, picked up everything, methodically, threw it over the cliff. Everything!
Leonard has gone to the rags, clutches them, hugs them to himself for protection.
You dragged the table, lurched, groaned, too heavy to drag to the... How can so much change in a...
It didn't.
How much?
Nothing. Questions.
You need to know. It's why you came back here. Why you're standing there now. Or you'd be dead in the gutter. You want to know. That's why you're this unhappy man. That's why I love you.
Leonard stares at her, then abruptly turns and goes out through the door. Grace hesitates, goes toward the door, stops still for a few seconds, then perfunctorily tries to clear the mess on the table and the floor, goes to the rags, starts to gather them.
Soiled nappies.
Holding rags, she starts to go, uncertainly, sway through the door. Leonard is suddenly in the doorway. He stretches his arms out wide. He holds a shoe in each hand.
I came back for my shoes!
2. Mountain. A cliff top halfway up a mountain. The ground slopes up to the cliff edge, and stony, gravelly scrub trodden flat. Left, a path leading down the mountain. Right, a path leading up to an unseen settlement. Close to the cliff edge, right, a simple wooden bench to seat 3. No back. The sky is clear with vague cloud or mist. It suggests emptiness rather than a panorama. On the ground, right, a metal plate of food. O is training BB with a code of whistle blows. 1 blow, move ahead. 2, left. 3, right. 4, faster. 5, slower. 1 sharp blow, stop. Trill of blows, turn around. BB moves in response to the whistle and shows no other signs of physical movement. His movements are stiff, but he tries to hide it. Head up, shoulders back. BB is standing and O has guided him to the right. BB approaches the plate. O guides him up. O guides him right. O guides him down. BB almost reaches plate. O silently moves the plate left. Watches BB moving to where the plate was. 1 sharp blow. O guides BB diagonally across the space, bypassing the plate. O guides BB up to center of cliff edge. 1 sharp blow.
Feel the wind in your hair.
Slight pause. O moves the plate close to the bench, guides BB toward it. Silently moves plate to down center, guides BB toward it. Leonard comes on down left. He has a gray, sparsely filled backpack. O sees him, shocked. Bibi does not react to Leonard.
What? Why are you here?
Leonard puts his backpack on the ground.
Tell me later. I can't now. Must keep up the pressure. Critical when...
O whistles. Bibi moves. O manipulates the situation by surreptitiously removing the plate. When Bibi reaches the place where the plate was, he gestures down to reach it. O whistles to guide Bibi to the new place. Bibi almost reaches it. O moves the plate. Bibi edges his shoe to touch the missing plate. O whistles. Bibi turns and moves into the empty space. Improvised whistles and related movements. O moves the plate.
He's moved the plate. Can't you?
Don't! Got to do it himself. Don't interfere.
Leonard retreats upstage. Watches. O manipulates Bibi to stand right in front of Leonard. O whistles Bibi to stop facing Leonard. Leonard stares at Bibi. Explains.
He moves the plate when you get to...
I'm training him.
Whistles Bibi to turn face away from Leonard. Leonard stares at Bibi's back.
He's blind.
Maneuvers Bibi. Stealthily moves plate.
But why are you moving?
Angry hiss.
Shh!
What's on the plate?
Food! He's got to find it or he doesn't eat.
Leonard to Bibi.
He moves the plate when you...
Stop it! A year's training! You'll ruin it.
But why can't he just...
O manipulates Bibi by using whistles. Leonard watches agitatedly.
He has to get the system in his head. The idea, the structure. So he knows where he is, that's why.
But why...
I just move a plate. You move the system in his head. You destroy it. And there's anarchy. He doesn't eat yesterday. Eating's banned before training day. You're stopping him from eating. Must learn to obey or he'll never see. Live as he could see.
Leonard goes to Bibi, takes him to the plate.
It's here. The plate.
O going to Leonard.
No, don't. Please. You're destroying him.
Pleading gesture.
Please, a year's. Why have you come back?
Leonard to Bibi.
Eat.
Picks up plate.
Eat.
Holds it to Bibi's face.
Eat.
O and Leonard watch Bibi in silence. Bibi doesn't move.
Why can't he...
Your house.
What happened to my house?
It's gone. I had it. I pulled it down.
O takes the plate from Leo. Puts it on the ground. Whistles. Bibi moves. Leonard to O.
Why?
It was an eyesore. Derelict. You call that building? Why did you build it so close to the edge, to the cliff? You were a menace. Always. You haunted that house even when you lived in it.
Hold down my...
Don't blame me. They voted for it.
Gestures to Bibi.
So did he. There was a meeting. Get rid of it.
Sudden shock.
You're not thinking of coming back. Stopping here.
No response.
Tomorrow, he'll suffer for this. A year wasted because of you. I feel sorry for him. He can't see. He never will. But I can train him so he'll never know. I can put a map in his head, a whole system, how to live.
Gestures right up to the settlement.
This is a small place. If he walks around like a normal sighted, no one would know that he can't see. They wouldn't treat him any different. And if he is, well, that'd make him a leader. Show them how to live. He wouldn't fuss or quarrel. The blind don't quarrel. Everyone could rely on him, do his little bits of business when he needs help on anything, too. If I saw him with a white stick in his hand, I'd cut off my hand.
Whistles. Manipulates Phoebe toward the plate.
How do the blind tell time, huh? Everything you see is a clock. It tells you. We haven't thought of that, have you? They don't see anything. It has to be in their head, the system. I can put it in his head. I can put the world back in his head. Time, place, direction. Give him a good life here. Go away. You don't understand. You pity him. What's that of use to him? I help him.
Leonard picks up the plate, holds it out in front of Phoebe's face.
Here, eat. You can smell it.
Oh, laughs. Phoebe turns around away from Leonard, moves to face him.
Eat!
Phoebe crouches down on his knees. Leonard puts the plate on the floor.
It's on the floor with you.
Leonard taps the plate. Phoebe moves away on his knees, tries to find his direction. Still on his knees, he goes toward the cliff edge. Oh, guides him by whistles. He stands up, wanders, falls, clutches at the earth as if for support, scrapes at the dust, presses his dusty hands against his face as if he's trying to eat the dust. Oh, knocks the dust from his hands, takes his arm, with the knee, propels him toward the bench. Phoebe totters, lost, falls. Oh, yanks Phoebe up. Phoebe tries to cling to him. Oh, pushes him off, brushes his clothes where Phoebe touched him. Phoebe stands, bowed. Oh, whistles him toward the bench. Phoebe totters, creeps somnambulistically toward the bench, almost reaches it. Shaking hands, flail to find it.
Oh.
Phoebe knocks against the bench. It grates.
Bench.
Phoebe feels the bench against his leg, knocks it over, scrabbles, struggles to stand it upright. It swings wildly.
Now go. Go.
Oh, blows chaotically on the whistle. Phoebe struggles with the bench. He controls it, sets it upright, sits on it, rigidly facing off-right.
You see what you've done. 6 months. He can't put it right again. There's no second chances when you're blind. You've torn up the map in his head. You saw it when he crawled on his hands and his knees on the... Why do you think I spend my time training him, huh? Day after day.
Grace comes in down left. She has a big, bright, tightly packed backpack. She stares at the space.
It's gone.
What do you want?
Grace is taking off the backpack.
What are you up to?
Wait.
Wait. There's a holdup. Just sit still and concentrate. Did he bring you here?
Where's the house?
I'm not standing for this. I had enough of you before. You're a wrecker. You've been here 5 minutes and you've taken years from this man's life, stolen his future. He'll never get over you. And it's not only him. Tomorrow everyone here will see the difference. Gossip. You make him a blind. He's a liability on the community. You saw him crawl on the ground as if he was falling back to the past. must be order. Civilization depends on systems, or we end up living worse than animals. You're not fit to be on the earth. All right. All right. Perhaps the damage isn't beyond repair. We'll do what we can do.
Grace to Leonard.
What is he?
Shut up! He's brought his ventriloquist dummy.
To Leonard. Violent.
I warn you, things can happen here, things no one sees unless they want to. I've had enough of this. This session's wasted. I'm going to go back up to the settlement, and I'll be gone when I come back, both of you.
To Bibi.
Just give me a start and then follow up. On your own. Years training. God. That can't be put right when it's broken. Follow me up on your own. Show me you can at least do that.
Unawares, brushes his clothes where Bibi touched him.
Your hands filthy. And you can feel the dirt. Just wash them when you get back to the house. And your face.
O briefly, silently glances at Leonard and Grace and gestures to them to go as he goes outright. Bibi remains unmoving on the bench. Leonard and Grace look at each other from some distance apart.
Are you all right?
How did you know I was here?
I've been walking for weeks. There are some things in my backpack, if you want them.
Pointing after O.
What was he doing?
How did you know I was here?
I'm tired.
Goes to bench. Sits on it. To Bibi.
May I?
He doesn't react or change his position. To Leonard.
I don't know why you're here.
Nods to backpack.
Clean things, if they're any use.
Then why did you come here?
I thought I'd never see you again. I have to start a new life. What I planned for is gone. I can't change it. Bring it back. I suppose I have to hope for something. Begin somewhere. Don't worry. I don't blame you.
She eases her boots, undoes her laces.
My feet are a mess. I don't know what I'll do. I've still got my job.
Why are you here?
To see your mother for the last time. Tell her she wasn't to blame for what went wrong. I owe her that. We're both old enough to be responsible for ourselves. I don't think badly of her.
Empties a stone out of one of her boots.
I didn't want to leave the past hanging over in the air.
A long way to come to apologize.
Grace shrugs.
I have the time now.
Laces boots.
No house. Okay, where is she? Does she live up in the village?
Leonard is surprised.
I
at the
don't
question.
know. They call it a settlement now.
How long have you been here?
Oh,
Is that your backpack?
yes.
But why did you come here?
For peace.
But you hate the place. You always said. When we left, you said this house was your worst mistake.
Leonard interrupting.
You have to go somewhere.
Did you know his mother?
Bibi doesn't react.
Do you know where she lives?
She touches his shoulder. He suddenly stands up, straight, stiff, still facing right. He doesn't turn to her.
He's blind.
Slight pause.
Does he? Would he? What? If anything's happened to her?
Silence. To Leonard.
Why are you here?
Silence.
Shouldn't I have asked?
I thought in the house I might find something, find myself. When a house goes, it's like a burial.
Half joke.
So you visit it. It's as if you're remembering, you're visiting your own grave while you're still alive.
Grace says forensically.
You didn't know it wasn't here until you got here.
Silence. Changes the subject.
You should look at my backpack, if there's anything of use.
Leonard goes to Bibi, sits him back on the bench. Bibi sits in his former position, still looks right. Grace walks into the space where the house stood, stops, points to the ground at her feet.
I'm sorry,
You're standing where the door was.
I'm sorry I asked why you were here. I've lost the right to ask anything.
To Bibi.
There was some trouble. It was before you were here. My mother went to live further up in the mountain. Do they still talk about her?
No answer.
Thought they might. No. Too long ago.
Well, she must come down sometime.
No. She'd moved further out.
But she must come down for...
They've forgotten her. Perhaps she's dead.
Flatly.
She's like a shadow over the place.
I came to tell her. I must see her. If she's still alive. I've come so far. I don't want to live the rest of my life asking myself if she...
To Leonard.
She was crying. Suffering. Crying when she left the house. She said she'd never stop crying till she died. Was that to shame you? Why did you turn her away?
Exasperated.
I didn't. She chose to go. I woke up the next day and she'd gone.
I came to tell her she must stop crying so I can start my own life again. Must there be so much desolation? I'm going up to the village.
Don't leave it alone.
Gestures to Bibi.
He doesn't want you to. None of them do. She's an outcast. If you found her, she wouldn't know you. It'd be like asking a stranger. It wouldn't mean anything.
Grace goes right, stops at Bibi.
Do you know where she is now?
No answer.
I warned you. He doesn't want you to ask. You'll upset them.
Grace starts to go right. Leonard calling after Grace.
They can't tell you. It wouldn't mean anything if they did.
He stands, uncertain what to do. Bibi is still looking right.
When I heard your voice, I thought I might go away. You won't stay. You'll move on.
Leonard goes to the plate, pushes it along the bench.
Eat.
This house was a laugh at first. Pulling it down, he told us to easy. Wood, climb the walls, roof, dropped things, hammer over the cliff. No noise, too deep. The lads applauded. They could have fallen themselves. Work over, they knocked off. They went back up to the settlement. Me with them. Then I waited for the early hours. Done it before. Came back. Stole the wood. Black market. Everyone building houses those days. Nicked doorknobs, window fittings. Soon be a bare wreck. There was a door, piece of wall, empty frame, looked like an eye shut in the dark. Say, climbed on a box. I reached up for the lintel, kept the sails to myself. I wobbled, I toppled, I fell. If my mate wasn't with me, I would have fallen. I worked on my own. Kept the sails to myself. I didn't share the dough. Lads couldn't find me in the morning. Just the hanging beam and the box. So they thought I'd fallen off the cliff. I was crawled off in the scrub, head whirring. I think I thought I was crawling for my sight. I didn't know who I was, or I was going up or down. Not learned yet. Whistles. One up, two up. They found me in the scrub. I heard their voices. I thought it was the kids playing. I was clutching handfuls of grass. I was crying on it. I must have thought the grass was my sight.
Leonard picks up the plate.
Eat it.
Leonard taps the plate with the spoon.
Tell them I ate it.
Bibi takes the spoon, puts it in his buttonhole. Leonard watches him. Bibi puts the plate back on the bench, sits beside it, doesn't eat, rigidly faces right.
In the war, we weren't proper soldiers, just a group of street lads. They chose me as group leader. Don't know why. All orders came from above. Told me what to do, how to do it, when, why. What we were fighting for was good, but I knew I was nothing. I couldn't lead anyone, not even myself. If ever I came too heavy, they'd They walk off, dump me. Middays, we had a cook-up. Brew in big ammo cans, 30 of us. One day, they brought me a soldier. Enemy. They said he just turned up. Wandered in. Said he was hungry. Times were hard. Smell the cooking. Couldn't they feed him? No one I could ask. You go to war to kill your enemies, not to feed them. Was it a plot? Some test? Ambush? Was he a decoy, or was he just a hungry soldier? I pretended I was too busy to answer, to deal with it. And I felt my authority slipping away. Next day, I'd be gone. I was in charge. I should have protected them from an enemy soldier. Stop it before it goes too far. Settled, and no. While I was thinking, they gave the soldier a piece of bread, dipped in stew. Forgive me. You must forgive me for what I did then. He put the bread in his mouth, didn't say thanks. No ta. Perhaps he didn't want to fight us. Not an enemy, just a hungry soldier. He started to chew. I was so angry. I shot him in the mouth. He said, "Brother." Maybe it wasn't brother. Maybe he was just choking on the bullet. He said, "Brother." The sound of a wound. He fell dead. The stink of cordite stew. They dragged him to the ditch. Drop him in it. Took his weapon. A bit of bread fell from his mouth on the ground. The soldier took it, trod on it, scraped it out with his boot. In the morning, army humor. They said, our cooking is not that bad.
I'll die when I lost my sight. I live in cement. Black cement.
Kath comes down the path, right. She is exhausted, frail, in rags of working clothes. She uses a walking stick. She passes Leonard and Bibi without seeing them, staring at the space. She stops.
House. Do you want something?
Not hearing.
House? Pull down. What did you want?
Pulled down?
She looks round as if the house had moved to another site.
Are you from... What do you want?
The house.
Leonard stares at her, recognizes her.
You're my mother.
Kath goes a little way toward the edge of the cliff, stares over it as if the house might be there.
I think you're my mother.
Why did they...
Looking over the cliff,
Mother.
turns to Leonard, moves closer to him, peers at him.
Go away! Go away! Go!
To herself,
My son? My son, he's my son. He says he's my son.
Why are you here? They said you lived in the mountains.
Go away! Go away!
to herself,
What shall I do? What do I do? No house. What shall I do?
I'll fetch my...
starts to go right, stops.
Get my wife. She went up to ask for you.
Stops.
Why are you... Why have you come down?
That's your...
Why have you come back?
Stares at him. Takes a few more steps towards him. Peers at him again. Points at him.
That's my son? Go away!
Why are you here?
Kath walks into the empty space.
There's no house.
I'm sorry,
Kath turns to see Leonard.
He's still there. Still there. Go away!
Is there something I can do? Can I... what can I
Do?
Silence. Exhausted from walking in shock. Asks him.
Why'd I come here?
Why asks herself.
Why did I come here? I tied a knot in my sleeve so I could remember. Something on my mind.
Glances at the knot.
I-
Remembers.
I came here to die. I tied a knot in my sleeve not to forget. Now, tell your wife, don't call people. Don't bring them down to... It's too late, I'm dying.
Touches her sleeve.
Look at my knot.
Turns away.
I
Looks at the space.
don't want to die. I don't want to die in the mountain. I came down here to die in the house. The mountainside, I lived in a hut. It was a coffin. You understand? I lived in a coffin. I came down here to die in the house. Years and years, all that time, I heard it pass. I was happy once. Here for a while, in a house. I thought it was a place to come to die in. Do you understand me? And I haven't spoken for years. No one there in the mountain. Tell your wife not to fetch them. I won't die with strangers. I'll die on my own, as proper people do.
You're dying. How do you know?
Kath bewildered.
No house.
What are you dying of?
Time. I lived too long in my coffin. Let me fetch you.
Banging walking stick on the ground.
I choose how I die. Let me. I earned it. He thinks I'm mad. I didn't talk to anyone in years, and I lost the words. Didn't talk to myself. The mad talk to themselves. Makes them mad. I listened to myself. I didn't know the house was. I know what matters. Know the rest. It's simple. He wants to fetch people. Watch me die. Stare at me when I'm dead. Let me take you to. And I walk too far. Weeks, no more. Not walk in the little that's left. Die where the house was.
Leonard turns and walks toward the right. Kath runs past him, stands in his way, raises her walking stick over his head in a threat.
No. Fetch strangers. Watch me die. Pick over these rags when I'm dead. Untie the knot in my sleeve.
Giggles to herself.
Here's my son. Here's my son always. Can't change. Oh. I can see the knot in your sleeve. You can.
Wraps the stick on the ground in place of words. Becomes quiet. Exhausted.
When I was a girl, I chewed my rags so I wouldn't cry at night. Wind in the windows. Crack, wailed, jeered, and glass spat at me. I've been silent all these years. And now I remember. Don't listen. Go away. Dying people remember. That's loud.
Leonard goes toward Phoebe. Stops in hopelessness.
People hate the poor. Afraid it'll come to them. They hate the poor more than they hate the dead. I had nothing. My mouth always muttering. They thought it was age when I was young, but no, I ate. And when my mouth was empty, it talked to me. It asked for food. There was no food, nothing. And one day, the rich will choke on my food. Perish in the clothes they stole from my back. Cry my tears. I begged in the streets. I didn't tell you. I didn't want to be in change, ashamed in front of my child that I'd carried in my belly. But you tormented me. What was it for? Brother, 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 brother. I was too weak to carry your brother in my hollow, empty.
Wanders a few steps.
The neighbors had nothing, just shadows in the doorway. Can't beg on the doorstep. I hoped each morning that I'd be dead. I didn't show it. Even next door didn't know. I wondered what happiness was. What is it? What is it like? How do you know that you're happy? And then you brought me here, in a house, No brother. not asked for here. I was happy. I knew what it was. You even fed me. One day you said, let's eat outside. And the sun was, oh, I was shaking with the good, the house, the tables, plates.
Sudden dull panic.
How do you eat outside? Is there a special way? A proper way, the proper people? Would I do it right? Ruin the day? The woman was indoors cooking, and you brought plates and spoons and knives,
Angry?
and in the sun I had nothing to bring to the meal. The poor never forget their poor. Not allowed. I wanted to be part of the meal. And that day, not always asking and wanting and scrounging and begging, and even as I ate,
Angry.
I do not want to let them see me die. Shall I sell tickets?
Becomes quiet.
I went into the house and fetched the possession, the one thing. I had a possession, and I brought it out, and I spread it on the table. Clean, no marks. It was white, the white sail I saw on a ship. I smoothed it out, creases of the hands, and no tremble. I sat at the head of the table. The sheet covered my dead husband when he was. Why did you destroy it? Throw plates and food and all, even the crumbs. I scooped them up with your hands and over the cliff. It felt like rain. Why? Why? I left that night, and the door didn't want me to go. It went up into a. Why did you do it? You threw all the.
Letter to Bibi.
Tell her nothing's ever like that. Things go wrong when. Help me! If I could open your eyes.
Bibi doesn't move. Faces right.
I knew what happiness was. For a little while. When we started the meal, but it never comes back. Can't. I had nothing to give. I went up the mountain and listened to myself for years. Learned all there is.
Kath goes right. Sits on bench. Bibi doesn't react. Is in the same posture. Faces right.
You know, when they're too high. Till one night, snow makes the room, the moon so bright, the moonlight on the window, and I saw an ant creeping up the window. No ants on the mountain. I got up and looked close at the window, and nothing. Only a little bit of my face on the glass. I opened the door, and there was no one out. Footprints in the snow, white and not marked out by a shadow, just snow trodden white. And I turned and I looked at the hut. I left the door open. It was like an eye in the dark. I was to know everything up there. I followed the footmarks. No boots, no wrapping on my feet, cold. It caught what. That's what I'll die of. Went on up the slope, And there was a wood, and I went in between the trees, and a man.
Leonard starts to run right, passing Kath. She gets up, hits him with a walking stick. He grabs it. They tussle.
The man was waiting. Waiting.
Kath hits Leonard with the walking stick. He grabs it, throws it aside.
No, no, it's my death. You shan't take that away. I die as I choose. Nothing all my life. Now I have my death. That's what I came down here for. Walked and walked for.
Kath goes to her stick, picks it up.
It's not what I thought it would be. That can't be helped, can't be changed. Make do with what's been done. I'll arrange my life so it has meaning at the end. A proper death. When I'm dead, throw me from the cliff.
Leonard moves so that BB is between him and Kath. BB does not move.
Promise, no. I'm tired. I can't always keep on asking. Promise me. Wait till I'm dead. Then it's not wrong to do it. Huh? It'll help you. You'll do it, right? You understand? You throw me from the cliff. You wanted to do it when we ate.
He stares at her in silence.
I can't.
No, you still have to learn. Perhaps it's not me speaking. It's you thinking.
Grace comes in from the right.
She wants me. It's my mother. She wants me to throw her off.
I know, I heard.
Are they coming? Are they back? Go, tell them
They
they
won't.
must.
Not allowed to.
Leonard goes to Grace.
Please, come up to the... I'll make them. Why am I so afraid? Please.
He goes to Kath. He
Please.
tries to embrace her.
Please. No. It's my death. I die my way.
Too late to touch me with your hands wet with your baby tears. Touch me when I'm dead, and then wipe your hands on me and throw me?
Grace comes down to Leonard and Kath.
I can't.
You mustn't ask him.
To Leonard, trying to calm him.
It's all right. You can't. Well, of course you can. We'll find a way.
Kath.
He can't.
He must. I'm pregnant.
Leonard stares at her. Grace turns helplessly to him.
It was in the snow. The snowman. It happened when I followed the footsteps in the snow.
She walks away from them, stares at them.
You think I'm old. That's years of weirdness. I'm old, but you can feel it in my body. The child. The shouting woke it.
Slight pause. Leonard to Grace.
See if it's there.
Grace pauses. Goes to Kath. Puts her hand on Kath's stomach. Pause.
I'll take it with me. not leave it here to rot. It knows. It's dancing.
Kath turns, walks away with her back to Leonard and Grace.
You have a choice. Do it when I'm dead. That'll help you. Promise me. The child and me. Throw us from the cliff.
Leonard forces himself to try to be controlled.
No. You must. I choose my death. I gave you life. You can't take my death away from me.
The baby's in your stomach.
I'll take it with me. It's what it wants.
Leonard trying to control himself almost administratively.
No. No. You're mad. I can't. I won't let you.
Not leave it here where people. You make a prisoner of my unborn child, a victim. When people come, I'll pick rags to see my body with another
Spits
carcass on show.
to her womb, grasps it with her
I
hands.
won't let them.
Leonard to Grace.
Fetch them. Tell them to come here and see.
Do what I tell you.
I will not kill the child.
Not kill it. Save.
Clutching her womb.
If it's dead before me. I can't look after it even when I'm dead. They never could. My life is learning.
Looks down at her belly.
Come with me. I can teach you my life and share all I can. I can teach you lessons. It wants to stay with me. Let it.
Shakes her fist at the sky, shrilly.
I lived for your amusement.
She collapses sideways, awkwardly. Leonard angrily shouting at her.
I won't kill the child. I will not.
Kath in a half coma.
Oh, promise me, promise me, promise me, promise me. I'm dead. Wait till I'm dead. Then throw me off the cliff. Promise me.
You do it. Throw yourself off with the child.
No, I won't kill myself. I lived alone. I suffered, and I won't give up at the end. My last. Don't ask your mother to kill herself. Do it. Promise me.
Grace turns to look at Leonard and Kath.
My child wants you to do it. When the day's gone, it's too late.
It's murder. I will not kill the child.
Murder it! Doesn't matter what the word is. They get it wrong always. Promise. Murder it if that's what you want. Murder it. Murder it.
I won't.
Do it.
Stares at Grace.
Do it.
You must.
Kath to Grace.
Oh, thank
Grace
you.
to Leonard.
You don't understand. It's very simple.
Whisper.
That's monstrous. You do it if it must.
It is. If it's. I'll do it.
Goes to Kath.
If you let me, if it's allowed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Grace embraces Kath.
Thank you. Thank you.
Leonard goes to Grace, tries to pull her away from Kath.
Allowed? It's not allowed.
Leave us! Leave us!
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Leonard
you.
pulls Grace from Kath, half throws her aside.
No.
Grace to Leonard.
Then you do it!
I will not kill the child.
Leonard goes left, stops, turns back.
I will not kill the child.
Leonard goes left, turns back,
I know.
picks up his backpack, puts it on with both straps.
I know I will not kill the child.
Leonard goes out left. Kath is prostrate on her back on the ground. She starts to heave herself toward the cliff edge. She prods her walking stick into the ground as a lever. Grace stares at her.
Help me. If I can get to, when I die, you won't have to drag me. Just
Grace goes to Kath, tries to help her along the ground.
Put your arms around my...
Kath levers herself.
oh,
No, your arms. Put your arms around my...
Grace puts Kath's arms around her neck, tries to move her. Kath's arms flail to the side.
dear, you won't.
Grace
you won't.
tries to move Kath nearer the edge. Kath threshes the earth with her walking stick. Grace stands up. Kath threshing at Grace with her walking stick.
No, don't go.
Grace out of breath.
Rest. Nita.
Kath goes on trying to lever herself.
Lisa.
The walking stick skittles away from her.
No. Let me help you. And
Kath tries to crawl to
No.
the stick.
No,
She
no.
can't.
no.
Grace goes left.
No. You said.
Grace stares off left.
Oh, said.
Wanted to call him. He doesn't look back. He's gone.
Is that how it'll be?
Grace comes back to Kath, bends to help her.
Oh, don't go.
I'm here. Back. I'll get you to the...
Kath can't grip Grace. Only
Only a little.
I can't.
she straightens.
A little.
Grace goes right. Stops.
Can't.
Wants to speak, but can't. Grace goes outright. Kath calls weakly. Realizes Grace has gone. Her hand searches for her stick. Finds it. Climbs to her feet. Drags herself toward BB. Half falls.
If I could scratch the sky, I would.
Kath goes closer to BB.
You heard what needs to be done.
BB turns to face Kath. Stands. Goes to her. Drags her toward the edge. Goes astray.
Oh, no.
BB feels forward with his foot. Strays further.
The lady's dying.
Oh, comes in.
You didn't follow me.
Notices Kath.
What's going on?
She needs to be thrown from the cliff.
Why are you? But why do you?
Oh, guides BB with whistles. BB goes astray. Oh, angry.
Just concentrate. Just follow the map in your head.
Oh, whistles. Guides BB to the edge.
Wait,
Sits him down.
wait.
Goes to Kath. Bends over her.
Dead.
Goes to BB. Years training wasted. With the flat of his shoe, pushes BB off the cliff. Years raining wasted. Oh, notices the plate. Goes to pick it up. Picks it. Eats. Notices Grace's backpack. Goes to it, still eating. Half puts on the backpack, one strap. Goes out, eating. Flat, evening, low light. Leonard, half dozing in an upright back chair at the end of the empty table. Silence. A noise off. Grace comes in. She wears outdoor clothes. She carries a largish supermarket carrier bag with a garish advertising image on the sides. She sees Leonard.
I let myself in.
Leonard stays at the chair. Leonard and Grace look at each other.
I should have told you I was coming.
Where do you live now?
The other side of the city.
How are you?
All right. You?
Yes.
I rent a bedsit. Quite comfortable.
She comes to the table and stands her carrier bag on it.
You look well.
Why have you come? Sit down.
Grace doesn't sit.
You live on your own?
Yes?
I've come to collect a few things. Clothes. Stuff you'll be glad to get rid of.
Slight pause.
No. No, nothing's in the way.
Well, I should have warned you.
Sit down. I kept all your things. They're in your cupboard.
Grace sits. She doesn't bring the bag near her. She puts her forearms on the tabletop.
What happened in the end? I didn't try to find out. I'd have had to go back.
Silence. Grace puts keys on the table.
Your keys.
So, thanks.
What I don't take, you can throw out. I just need a few bits. I never imagined one day I'd sit here and lie.
Slight pause.
It's the first thing I do when I get here. I didn't come to collect my things. That was an excuse. I have to finish with what happened. Nothing's gone right since. I should keep it to myself. Not come and chatter. Waste your time.
Leonard comes a few paces closer to her and stops.
I do everything wrong now.
Don't blame yourself. You did what she wanted.
Silence.
Yes. I tried to move her to the edge. Make it easier when she died. When I touched her, I felt she was happy. Her whole body happy. It was wonderful. I never felt like that. She said her baby laughed. It was happy to be staying with her. You'd run off. Told her you wouldn't do it. I'd said I would. She was dying, and I'd give her something of her own. So,
Sits up straight.
I saw it in my head. She was standing in the street,
Flatly, resentfully.
holding out her coffin like a begging bowl in my head for me to put something in. No one had ever given her anything. She was afraid I'd change my... Quick! She knew I was already going to. Get me to the edge. Push me off the... I go over and over it. She patted my arm. stroked by a claw. Can't get it out of my... She pushed herself up with her walking stick. I wouldn't. She knew. All her life knew.
She stops a moment to try to control herself.
I saw nothing. In my head. It swallowed up the sky. I pushed her away. She howled like a baby. Wait, I'll bring him back. Make him.
She taps the table. Sound of footsteps.
I watched you go down the... I didn't call. I hoped she'd die before I got back. Please. She was squirming on an animal in human rags. It was a relief when she was dead. A dying woman hated me. How can you be so lonely?
Silence.
It was a mistake to build the house.
I went up to her hut. Lived there a year. The mountain is quiet. I talked to her. Look, I'm sweeping your floor. Looking after you, like your daughter. There were cracks in the walls, between the water dropping from the holes. Crying. Puddles of tears on the floor. I began to think it was her eyes staring at me. In the mountain when you hear sounds. Miles away. I'm sure she'll cry all the time. She's dead. I left. I'd left her when she was dying, so she'd expect me to leave again.
Stops. Touches her carrier bag.
I brought it down with me.
Quiet.
What did...
Not having heard.
Sorry?
Was anyone who helped her to on the cliff?
Don't know. The blind boy couldn't.
She killed herself? That it? Threw herself down the...
Stops himself. Silence.
I'll get my things. Go on pretending that's what I came for.
Grace stands. For a moment, she wanders, vaguely.
I've forgotten where the door...
Leonard goes to the door, turns on the light.
Yes.
Pause. She laughs a little.
Oh, I remembered something. I couldn't leave it in the hut. No one would steal it, but it seemed wrong. The damp, rats.
Grace takes her carrier bag from the table, gives it to Leonard.
Can't keep it in a bedsit.
Grace goes out through the door. Leonard opens the carrier bag, takes out a folded linen sheet. He stares at it, undoes it a little. It's dirty, damp stains, some of them marked out the grid patterns of the folds. He stares at it, touches the surface with one hand, takes it to his chair, hangs it on the back. It partly unravels, hangs down. Damp sticks some of the clumps together. Ragged tears where rats ate it. Silence. Grace comes back. She's calm. She has a plain bag. It bulges.
I feel better now that I've been here and given you that.
Nods at sheet.
Smells a bit.
Slight pause.
You know what it is?
Thank you.
I'm sorry I spoke so much.
No.
Grace looks at the sheet.
I didn't know it was in that state. Never looked at it. It's as she left it. The sheet she covered your father in.
I've eaten out of dustbins.
A little silence.
I shouldn't have run off. Left you.
A little silence.
We live in a trap. Did she tell you?
Stops himself.
Let's not keep asking questions.
Questions ask themselves.
Let's leave it.
Leonard nods at sheet.
Thanks. You brought it. It can go in the dustbin now. The curfew started. The mobs will be out.
Is it so late? I spoke too much.
Slight pause.
Why do the police let the crowds on the streets? Curfew. Streets are supposed to be empty. There's this new game. If they catch someone from another street on their street, they'll throw them in the road. Traffic runs over them. The women get drunk and piss on the blood to wash it away. Evidence.
Leonard goes to the door. Stops in the doorway.
Too late to go out now. The mob would take your bundle.
Grace puts her bag on the table, speaks quietly.
But why do they?
It's the edge. They don't know who they are, where they're going. They get drunk to find out what it's like to be sober. Nothing works now. It'll go quiet. They'll walk past the bodies in the streets and not notice them. Walk on top of the dead piled on street corners and not see them. Reality has lost itself.
Leonard and Grace go through the door. They don't touch. Kath's bag is on the floor. The carrier bag and keys on the table. The sheet on the back of the chair. End of play.
I just have to say one word about this very, very fine company, some of which I've worked with for almost 40 years, is they picked up the script for the first time at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And worked consistently until Frank said, we have to get off the stage so you can set the chairs up. They came back on, maybe they had a slice of pizza, maybe they had a couple cookies that were left, that were very good, by the way.
The cookies were very good. Whoever
And
put the
this
cookies
is
on.
the result of what you see before you and what it means to have a genuine theater company.
yourselves, the actors.
My name is Rafi Reese.
Hi, I'm Liz Maurer.
Terry Grease.
Vicky Gilmore.
Stephen Cross, Michael David Gordon.
I'm Jim.
And that's Jim.
Thank you all.
He's
So
responsible.
stay here. We're going to have two video bits we got from the UK, one short from the UK, one from Brazil, two very short testimonies, and then maybe we go directly into conversation, a discussion, or a Q&A. So again, I think a round of applause. It was quite something, really an honor to the playwright Edward Bond, his last play, and you could see what was on his mind. And it is the last play in a way. So again, I think congratulations.
He isn't interested in theatre to be a playwright. What was interesting for Edward was the movement of the mind, to understand itself, to understand its context, to understand the challenges of a particular time. The necessary movement of the mind, trying to come to terms with new experience, or experience which was unstable, which was contradictory, or which was posing huge moral questions about complicity and intervention within your own life. I think what I found most exhilarating was learning to question again, and learning to ask questions where the question was more important than the answer. You know, when you think about how all of us come from an educational culture which rewards you for the right answer, not the right answers, but the right answer. What was interesting for Edward was to use the stage to pose questions for the audience to answer. I think he's also very, very clear that he wants the audience to be active in meaning making, and in if you want, a collaboration in making the play come to life. The desire to question without fear, I think, is probably his greatest gift to me. And to question without self-censorship.
Good morning from me, Tony Coult. I'm one of a group calling ourselves the Owl People. OWL stands for Orchard Way Legacies. As you must know, that Orchard Way was the name of the house that Edward and Elizabeth Bond lived in, and up to Edward's sad death a year ago. We're a small collective of friends and collaborators, and we've set ourselves up really to try and ensure that Edward's legacy, his artistic legacy, his political legacy, it has continued, despite the fact that he's no longer with us, but his work is, his inspiration is. And we need his work and his inspiration in these troubled times, as I'm sure everyone there agrees. Amongst us we have actors, directors, archivists, academics, and we've been able to play a small part, at least, in projects such as where Edward Bond's final literary archive goes. In the event, it's gone to the British Library here in London. One of the things that we really have hoped to do is to ensure that his last work, his last completed work, The Shoe Thief, itself has a life, and we've been glad to share that with you. as we are, as a group, we are scattered across the world, from Brazil to France. It would be great if you could share your recording of the reading with us, since we aren't all able to be there across the time zone. We really look forward to seeing what you're going to do, and we hope that we continue to collaborate on this urgent and essential work. So very good luck with the reading tomorrow, and please share it with us as soon as you can. All the best, Tony. And collaborators, and we've set ourselves up really to try and ensure that Edward's legacy, his artistic legacy, his political legacy, it has continued, despite the fact that he's no longer with us, but his work is, his inspiration is. And we need his work and his inspiration in these troubled times, as I'm sure everyone there agrees. Amongst us we have actors, directors, archivists, academics, and we've been able to play a small part, at least, in projects such as where Edward Bond's final literary archive goes. In the event, it's gone to the British Library here in London. One of the things that we really have hoped to do is to ensure that his last work, his last completed work, The Shoe Thief, itself has a life, and we've been glad to share that with you. As we are, as a group, we are scattered across the world, from Brazil to France. It would be great if you could share your recording of the reading with us, since we aren't all able to be there across the time zone. We really look forward to seeing what you're going to do, and we hope that we continue to collaborate on this urgent and essential work. So very good luck with the reading tomorrow, and please share it with us as soon as you can. All the best, Tony.
Yeah, here we go. Maybe Art, you come here, and Terry, and whoever wants to jump to the company, Neil. Jim, give you a microphone, and which we can share. Use this. And also, won't be too long, but I think it's important. Maybe sit next to you both here.
We can do that.
There's no one else comes, so you share the mic.
Yeah. Sure.
And,
All right.
And I think since it all took a bit longer than we thought, instead of having now a moderated discussion, maybe we go directly to the audience, but if any one of you wants to make a comment or say something before we go here, please do that. Do you take the mic?
Oh, yeah. I'm struck, this is our second excursion into Bondland. We did the bundle many years ago. And what I found about, that play and this play is the unrelenting truth and unrelenting truth of it. That it doesn't pull it, as a writer, and you were talking about that, I think, before the piece, of just how he doesn't pull back. He earns where he gets, and he just, I don't know how the actors were on their feet at the end of it. If we did it another week, I think we'd find the places where you can maybe play, but they went out there and they just gave it everything they had, and I think, but Bond really just gives you that, there's that next step ahead, and I think he's quite unique among, sort of the, starting with Harold Pinter, moving forward from there kind of writers.
I think one of the things that we've been discovering through our work on this play and our latest investigations is that you can find your way into the play by trusting the words and trying not to impose on the words, trying not to characterize the words, trying not to second guess the meaning. I don't think I understood this play until we read it out loud for the first time. Vicki and I were reading it out loud the other day, and it seemed impenetrable to me until we started to speak the words and listen to them as they came out of our mouths. And then all of a sudden we said, this is a great play. Wow. And I think that's, with the short amount of time of rehearsal that we had, that's what we held on to tonight. I think it was riding the roller coaster of those words and finding out, they're taking us into unexpected places. And great writers do that.
Yeah, and I was also so taken by what this play has to say about today, what it says about America today, what it says about our government today. I mean, it just kept leaping out at me all the way through it. I think all of his plays that I know are very political plays and very in the moment and of the moment.
Two things occur to me. You mentioned the bundle, and the bundle is actually a reworking of an earlier play that he wrote called Now Road to the Deep North. And that was very typical of his work. There was this kind of constant self-examination that went on in the truth-telling. It wasn't only about dramatizing truth about the social world, what he observed, the political world. It was looking again and again at what he was interpreting there. And it's interesting to follow the arc of his career because he was so successful insofar as a political playwright can be successful. He was embraced in the British theater in the 70s, so that he was getting produced at the Royal Shakespeare Company, Royal Court, and so on, and there was no question of his wide influence. But as his career went on, he kind of faded a little bit, not in his own writing, right, but in the way in which he was being accepted. And there was, over time, there were dedicated groups like this AL Collective. But it's interesting to see that he himself in his own writing was always, focused on what it is that he had to say and experimenting with dramatic form to do that. And it's quite a model for, young writers.
Yeah, so let's go directly, into a little bit over time. 1, 2, and then 3.
Sure, and my name is Eugene Molino, and this is the first. I write plays and poetry, so I'm interested in Edward Bond as a writer. He's not a writer I was familiar with. One of the reasons I came here and was great to get an intense crash course, and I think it's very interesting. And I had a chance to read a little about him. Two things I noticed in this play: he uses repetition a lot. Especially the scene with Kathy, the mother. She's repeating this exchange, and it seems to be something he's doing to transcend. You don't understand it's in the repetition. And also, he seems disturbed. I feel like it's almost not just politics, but he's very disturbed about something about human nature. I don't think he has, but he's asking a question when Leonard describes the scene outside with the mobs, and he describes what they do, and you know that. So now we've seen kind of the orgy of hatred and violence, but he seems to have seen that long before. It's also, I remember one of his first plays. It's also this kind of questioning of, you know, the human nature of humans. Where is it going? That's what seems to disturb him. I think that's the truth he's facing. It's something here that's very dangerous. He doesn't have an answer, so he's not political in the sense that he's offering, oh, this is the answer, it's going to all be okay if we do this or that. I think he's questioning something that informs, that drives politics. So if you could talk a little about the repetition and his understanding or his question about humanity.
About repetitions?
Oh, sure. We have been engaged now, guys, for almost 10 years on seeing how language works and how writers are descended from. We started out with Shakespeare. We did the 4 plays that he wrote in the year 1599. And because we were interested in how the plays, he wrote 4 plays. He must have had a lot on his mind. He was trying to get off of that. And we also then went into the work that Adrian Noble had done when he was at the RSC, which is kind of John Barton taken to one more level. And his book is called How to Do Shakespeare, and it's really about how to do the words. And we went from there and we saw, oh, this is very interesting because we do a lot of Brecht. And there was like, oh, how descended he is from how these things go. Repetitions, another one that we find running all the way through this is the use of not oppositions, but appositions, which are any time a word is set, you know, against another word. So it may not be directly, but it's saying this, you know, and then that discolors it. And I think that also has to do, you know, like certain kind of rules, I guess. If it's a repetition, you're not really repeating it. You're using it a second time because you haven't used it up yet. So you're coming back to it to do something else.
It connotes certain urgency too, doesn't it? I want you to hear this. You know, I not only said it, but I can't be sure you've heard it. So let me say it again, and in a slightly different way again and again.
Hi, my name's Cherie Tams, and I had a question for the gentleman from Iowa. You mentioned David Gothard and Riverside Studios, and I wondered what was the connection with Edward Bond.
You know, I just know that David, he was producer, artistic director of Riverside Studios, where he produced the work of many leading writers, including Athol Fugard, who sadly passed today. Yeah, sorry. That just occurred to me because I was reading about it a little while ago. And he, I'm not sure if he actually produced the work of Edward Bond at Riverside Studios. I don't know if Frank happens to know that, but
they were friends.
Yeah, I know that they were friends and they stayed in touch over the years, and I'm not sure about specific productions, but David has made an extraordinary career out of freelancing in the theater, in film, and directing not only in the UK but throughout Europe. And I imagine if I did some research, I could find at least one production of Edward Bond somewhere in there. But he was a real champion of Edward Bond's work, and he was very, very discouraged by the kind of lack of attention that Bond was getting later in his career. And he even talked about how when Bond passed away, he was shocked that there wasn't more of what's happening here right now. There was another part of this question, was there about David in Iowa? I mean, David was a frequent guest artist in our program, and no, that's okay.
David also said next to Carol Churchill He said it was the most significant
Oh,
British
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
20th century.
Yes, it's Mike Jankowicz. I'm an actor and playwright. It's disturbing about Fugard. He just died today.
I'm so sorry to be the bearer
Jesus.
of that news.
But anyway, the plays I write are of primarily historical nature, primarily with British, Irish, and Canadian history of the First and Second World War. Now, that may color what I'm about to say, in addition to having foreknowledge of Bond's adolescence. But during the play, I kept on thinking about the V2s. Not the V1s, because you can see and hear them coming, or bombers, which drop bombs. But the V2s were the first ballistic missiles. You had maybe a little whistling sound for a few seconds, and then you were dead. That was it. You had no control over your life and death under those circumstances. Again, there could be forewarning, there could be alarms, but that was the beginning of a new type of aerial warfare, if you will, where the people on the ground have no control. It's arbitrary, there's no warning, and it seems as if that may have colored Bond's worldview, which I hadn't thought of before, but I was thinking of it when I was listening to this play.
Yeah, I think Thomas Pynchon's great work, starts the first sentence, is the sound of the V2. One or two more thoughts, comments?
Hello, I'm Desiree Baxter. I'm an actor, and I was more curious about the transition from the page to the stage, and particularly how perhaps his early plays and this play compare. Is there some sort of, playwrights develop and ideas and things develop, but I was really taken, as the actors moved about the space, I could see chunks of text on the page. Yet the dialogue seemed, or the speech seemed very broken. So it was a very curious thing to me, because as an actor, when I see chunko text, I tend to see that as one thing, as one mouthful or whatever. But it seemed to take a long time to get through a chunk of text. And I wondered if that was written in. Was it done with the ellipses? Was it done? There were a couple of times when you said pause or silence or something like that. But I was very curious, did he always write in that style? Because when the play began, I thought, this is written in verse. And that, there seemed to be line stops. But then when I see the actors' notebooks, I see chunks of text on the page. So I was just curious if that's the way he always wrote, or if that's something that he came to later in life, or something he was playing with.
There are a lot of clues in the punctuation. There's a lot of hard stops, and then there's a lot of dashes where a thought is not complete and the mind is going in a different direction. And I think that may be what the effect you saw was us dealing with navigating those very complex thoughts and honoring the punctuation that he put in there.
Rafi, do you want to say something about that? Because you definitely, when you have a company like you're looking, okay, who is kind of leading it at a moment, and all of a sudden, Rafi this afternoon about 3 o'clock had a big breakthrough. And just about what you did.
Yeah, I'm an actor as well, and I that did seem pretty impenetrable, that speech at the top, especially we just had today to rehearse, but pretty quickly on and working on it, the thoughts are so short, but their full thoughts, and you have to drive through, like, he completes those thoughts, or he sees those images, and then something switches because he sees another image, but everything is full. And by the end of, like, rehearsing, working on it, I felt like this was just the way I talked, and it was complete sentences, because it just became a character thing. And so, but, like, during this, I wasn't even, it was just a character thing. And so it is, like, it's very interesting to play around with different writers' styles and take that on and feel what that choppiness, or what that, you know, it lends itself to him being very nervous and anxious and kind of always on edge, and it informs, everything you do, the punctuation, and really using that, because sometimes you say, you know, I'm not going to use the punctuation, I'm going to rewrite everything without periods, right? But yeah, really following that roller coaster.
You're trying to keep a thought up in the air. It starts here, and then may take this detour and this detour and this detour, but that's still there, and the good writer, which Bond is, resolves it. Eventually, it may take half a page, but it gets resolved.
If you read through the work from kind of the beginning, I'm not saying that I've read every single Bond play, but there's actually great variety. You know, Saved was written in a kind of realistic working class speech, and yet it had a poetry about it. And it's also very fragmented in a particular way. Now, A Road to the Deep North was actually, the language is very sparse. And there's a kind of epic visual presentation. And it has really varied, but there's always been kind of a sense of where does the dramatic text kind of meet the theatrical action, and if the dramatic text needs to have that kind of density of interior monologue, then he'll follow that, you know, through.
So I think we're a little bit over time. We actually have to be out in 3 minutes or 2. And we're a bit, but I would like really to thank you again for creating that reading, for you to take your time and listen. We need good theater, but we also need a good audiences, that it's meaningful. And I think we saw a really beautiful reading, also the presentation of a death on a stage, and the thinking, the thought, what was racing in his mind, almost in a Jelinek sense also. You really, in some sense, feels a closeness. I thought it was a masterful display, what American actors are so stunningly good about to put that up. And thank you, Art, for flying in, for being with us. Again, thank you all for coming. Normally we have a little wine reception. We cannot do it here, but come back, check out our website. Yeah, so, and it's also a little bit like, you have to get back to Brooklyn, right? So again, I think, a big round of applause, and thank you to Nurit and Anna Sophia up there for making it happen. And to Hauron, thank you.
If I could just say one last thing, building on what you said, is that I think the last thing I said to the company before we went on is the audience will tell you when you're right and when you're wrong. And they will just, if you give over to them, they'll say, you know, because you got, am I even in like the right musical key? And then all of a sudden you find it connects. And, you know, you were there for that. It was
And we saw BB. Well done. Great.
Well, of course, I published, you know, like 25 amazing plays.
I'm actually going to see it tomorrow.
Oh, right, for the project. Yes, it opened in a few days.
Yeah, she's coming to see it.
Well,
So
good to see you.
Overlapped by like
Perfect.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you.
Good job, good job.
What a treat.
You know, I was a dramaturg on that production.
Oh, the one that. Oh, that one.
I gotta run, but great to see you. No, thank you for promoting me. I didn't know that. It's just like the email sent off, so yeah. But take care. It was great to see you. And yeah, let me know next time you're in.
Thank you for coming. Anyway, it was really to work on that play. Nice to hear all that.
Which where was that?
It was done by a few different audience at the American Times.
Very late in the play, yeah. But there's no
I thought it was pretty strong, yeah. Anyway, many congratulations. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.